All right. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dincy Mariyam joining from India. I'm a PhD student at Center for Wildlife Studies. I am a fifth-year PhD student, and I would like to thank BCSL for giving me a platform to share my work. And this is a Rufford funded project, and this is also part of my PhD work, which looks at nature-based tourism in Indian protected areas. So today I'll be talking about nature viewing preferences of tourists visiting Indian protected areas. Nature-based tourism is growing in popularity and is also a very flourishing industry. It contributes about 4.4% of the direct global travel and tourism GDP, and more than 8 billion people visits many global protected areas. While while there are both benefits and costs associated with tourism, we know that tourism provides employment opportunities, it creates opportunities for revenue generation, but there are also associated costs such as animals getting very used to humans. There are psychological stress that the animal faces. There are buildings coming up in animal corridors. So there are all these negative impacts of tourism, and there are positive impacts of tourism. Although many of these protected areas are biodiversity rich, charismatic species are the main attractors to the protected areas. Charismatic species are the main attractors to many protected areas. So in Africa, we can see the big five: the lion, leopard, rhino, elephant, and the buffalo. In Sri Lanka, it's the elephant. In North America, there is the brown bear. And in Indonesia, there is the Komodo dragon.
Ms. Mariam, please share your presentation and then change the slides because we are only seeing the first slide of your presentation. Sorry to interrupt.
Is it visible now?
Sorry, yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, I'm changing the slide. Let me know if it changed. So tourism is increasing globally, and it's especially increasing in developing economies such as India. In India, we get more than 4 million visits annually. And in India, the tourism is increasing at an annual growth rate of 15%. India has about 5% of the total geographic area under protection. We currently have 981 protected areas, and we have 852 terrestrial protected areas. And my work is mostly focused on terrestrial protected areas. So in addition to the legal protection status, some of the protected areas are also accorded a tiger reserve status. So in 1973, the then Prime Minister of India had given some of the protected areas an additional conservation status under Project Tiger. So in 1973, when it was established, there were 9 tiger reserves, and currently we have 52 tiger reserves in India. This is mainly to protect the national animal, the Royal Bengal tiger. India is one of the 17 mega diverse countries. We have 7.6% of world's mammalian species. We have 12.6% of bird species. We have 6.2% of reptile species. We have 4.4% of amphibian species and 6% of flowering plants. Even then, the main attractor to a protected area is a charismatic large mammal, which is the tiger. This is what earlier studies have shown. So I was curious to know if charismatic species are the main attractors to Indian protected areas, or are there interest in other animals, other wildlife? And can we use this information to inform policy? Can we use this information for educating the visitors and also regulating tourism and diversifying tourism in other areas? So the main objective of my study was to identify the nature viewing preferences of tourists visiting Indian protected areas and what kind of socioeconomic and demographic factors influenced these preferences. So for understanding this, I have chosen 3 protected areas, 3 national parks in India: Bandipur National Park, Kanha National Park, and Sundarbans National Park. Bandipur is a mixed deciduous forest and savanna. Kanha is a sal forest and grassland, while Sundarban is the world's largest mangrove forest. Bandipur and Kanha are located at 900 to 1000 elevation, while Sundarban is at an elevation of 4 meters. All these national parks have also been accorded the tiger reserve status for protecting Royal Bengal tiger. And in Kanha and Bandipur, the safari is done through jeeps and buses, while in Sundarban, the safari is through boat. So in last year in 2021, between January and April, and this was the time between after the first wave of the pandemic had hit India and before the second wave had hit India. So during that time period, I went to survey tourists visiting these 3 national parks. So with the help of 12 volunteers, I conducted 516 semi-structured in-person surveys. So we asked the tourists about some of their background information, some demographics. We asked them about their the protected area visit. We asked them about their nature viewing preferences. We asked them about their interest in wildlife and conservation, and some questions about their annual income and how much they spend when they come to protected area. So some of the common characteristics that we found across the 3 protected areas were most of these tourists were working class people. They had at least a bachelor's degree. Most of them were traveling in a group. Majority of them were first-time visitors. We asked them about how they came to know about that protected area, and they said that they came to know about it through word of mouth. Some of them said that they have already known about that PA through some general knowledge that they have learned. There are more reasons, but I'm just listing the top 2. Then we asked them about why they chose to visit that protected area, and most people told us that they were visiting the protected area for the wildlife. Some people said it was just convenient for them. It just the protected area happened to be on the way of their travel, or it happened to be closer to where they were staying. So they just visited because of that reason. So for understanding nature viewing preferences, I had created 7 different biodiversity groups. We had birds, herpetofauna, landscape, other large mammals, plants and trees, small and medium-sized mammals, and tiger. We kept tiger as a separate category because earlier studies have shown that people preferred to come to a protected area just for the tiger. So I just separated out tiger from other large mammals. And then I looked at certain socioeconomic and demographic variables such as age, gender, protected area, the kind of protected area, if they were visiting for the first time, if they would visit the protected area in the absence of charismatic species, whether they have done any conservation project, whether they have supported conservation, and how far have they traveled to reach a particular protected area. So in case of, we ran a recursive classification tree models. So we gave them ranks. So 1 means they were the most preferred to view category, and 7 means they were the least preferred to view category. So you can see the tree model there. This is just an example, and I won't be showing this again. So in case of tiger, we saw that tourists visiting Kanha had a stronger preference for viewing tigers over the people visiting Bandipur and Sundarban. And in India, Kanha is one of the very preferred destination for viewing tigers, and this is sort of very obvious from the result. And for other large mammals, we found that people who were not willing to visit the protected area in the absence of charismatic species, and people who have traveled longer distances prefer to view large mammals over the others. In case of landscape, again, people who said they will visit in the absence of charismatic species had a higher preference for viewing landscape. For birds, we didn't find any factor influencing preference. It just was the fourth most preferred category. In case of small and medium-sized mammals, again, people who said that they will not visit the protected area in the absence of charismatic species had a higher preference for viewing small and medium-sized mammals. We got some very interesting results with plants and trees. Female tourists and male tourists who said that they will visit the protected area even without charismatic species were the ones who prefer to view plants and trees over the others. In herpetofauna, young tourists, like people who were less than 36-year-old and people who had done some kind of conservation project or who had supported conservation, were the ones who preferred to view herpetofauna. So some of the takeaways from my study is large mammals, these charismatic species can act as flagship species because in certain cases we do need them for attracting tourists. But if you can engage tourists through supporting conservation or giving them an opportunity to take part in conservation activities, then that can increase people's interest in lesser known species such as herpetofauna. There should be access to educational experiences when people visit protected areas. There should be guided tours and walks with trained naturalists. There should be very good interpretation centers which shows the cultural and natural history of the protected area, and updated resources should be provided about the protected area. And activities should be designed based on the varying tourist preferences. So, after all, if you focus only on charismatic species, when a day comes where you cannot sight a large mammal, then the chances that the tourism in that particular protected area going down is very high. So I had planned the study in 8 protected areas across India, but unfortunately due to the COVID-19 pandemic, I could do my study only in 3 protected areas, and hopefully I can continue doing working in other 5 protected areas in India. And I'm hoping that all 8 of them will bring out different stories about tourism and nature viewing preferences, and we can use this information for diversifying and regulating nature-based tourism globally. I would like to take this time to thank all these individuals and institutions that helped me make this project happen, especially Rufford for giving me the funding for doing this project. Thank you.
So thank you.